In the opening scene, we are introduced to a man named Park Dong-won, who, along with his wife Young Yi and their son Soo Chan, is in the process of moving into a new building. However, they discover that a car is blocking their path. The owner of the car is apparently unwilling to come out and move it. Enraged, Park repeatedly calls out to the owner until a man named Jung Man-soo finally walks out and removes the vehicle. Park reprimands the guy for his careless parking, but Man-soo remains cold, saying that he didn't do anything wrong. Instead, he claims that Park should apologize for disturbing his Sunday sleep. Following this, the family begins transporting their possessions into the building. Park takes this time to meet his new neighbors. One of them is a single mother named Miss Oh, who works tirelessly throughout the day. Before heading to work, she advises her son Lee Sung-hoon to avoid talking to strangers. After completing the shifting process, Park and his family relax in their new apartment. The following morning, Soo Chan is playing with his marble when he demonstrates an intriguing observation to his parents. The marble always seems to roll down in the same direction. This raises Park's curiosity, leading him to wonder whether the floor or the entire building is tilted. In the next scene, Park begins his day by preparing for work, but before heading to the office, he decides to stop by a nearby gym with the intention of becoming a member. However, his plans change when he discovers that the gym's trainer is none other than the arrogant Man-soo. The following day, Park takes his family to a photo studio to have a family portrait taken. To his surprise, he discovers that Man-soo is the owner of the shop. Man-soo explains that the gym belongs to a friend and his true profession is actually photography. Hearing this, Park becomes visibly annoyed. After the photo session, the family enjoys a delightful dinner at an upscale restaurant. Park drinks a glass of wine to celebrate the fact that he has finally bought an apartment. Unfortunately, he becomes so drunk that they have to call for a taxi. The driver is none other than Man-soo. That evening, a heavy downpour occurs, leading to a crack forming in the glass of the building. Man-soo notices it in the morning and tries to investigate, but as soon as he touches the cracked door, it shatters completely. Shortly after, a neighbor arrives and chastises him for his carelessness. Meanwhile, Park notices that there are cracks in the floor caused by the rain. This worries him, so he immediately reports the issue to the municipal council, urging them to take appropriate repairing action. However, the council informs him that the repair can only proceed with the consent of all residents. Determined to address the problem, Park gathers all the neighbors for a discussion, but unfortunately, the situation devolves into arguments over trivial matters. The following day, Park's coworkers arrive for a small gathering at his new home. As they approach the building, they notice Man-soo covering the broken door with plastic. He also expresses his concern about the cracks on the ground, giving them a negative impression of the building. Park, however, disregards Man-soo's words and ushers his coworkers inside. Following this, they proceed to talk to each other over some food and drinks. As the evening grows late, two of the coworkers bid their goodbyes and leave, but as the other two, Seung-hoon and Yoon-ju, are too drunk to drive, Park asks them to spend the night at his place. The next day, Young Yi and Soo Chan are heading towards the grocery store when they realize that they have left their shopping trolley at home. They try contacting Park to bring it, but he is in a deep sleep and doesn't answer his phone. As a result, Young Yi asks her son to return home to retrieve the trolley. Meanwhile, Sung-hoon hastily rushes out of the house as he has an important meeting to attend. He immediately hires a cab, but soon after, he realizes that he has forgotten his bag at Park's house, which prompts him to take a U-turn. On the other hand, Man-soo is seen knocking on each neighbor's door to inquire about running water, but receives no response, making him think that nobody is at home. However, Sung-hoon is actually at home, abiding by his mother's rule of not speaking to strangers. Man-soo then decides to go up to the roof to inspect the water tank. Meanwhile, his son Seung-tae, who is smoking there, quickly hides upon seeing him. Man-soo notices an older man watering plants in the next building, making him realize that the water problem is specific to their apartment. As he proceeds to leave, suddenly, the ground begins to tremble, exposing a sinkhole beneath the building. The sinkhole starts engulfing the entire building, but eventually stops when the hole becomes narrow. Sung-hoon, who is in the cab, tumbles into the sinkhole and lands on the roof of the sinking building. As the building continues to descend, he instinctively keeps pressing the accelerator, causing the car to plummet and ultimately land on a floor. Park, who happens to be at the same floor, quickly assists Sung-hoon in escaping through the car window. After this, they rescue Yoon-ju, who is trapped beneath the furniture. Moments later, Man-soo, who was previously trapped on the building's roof, also falls onto Park's floor. As the group gathers, Park begins searching for his son, but Man-soo reveals that he saw Soo Chan in the elevator. He believes the boy must have managed to escape. However, Man-soo is worried about the safety of his son. The group then rushes to his apartment and discovers that a pair of shoes is missing. This makes them assume that Sung-tae is somewhere else, safe. Following this, they head to the roof in hopes of getting help. However, the sinkhole is so massive that their cell phones don't catch any signal, and shouting is just a waste of energy. Just then, they hear a voice pleading for help. Upon following the sound, they discover Seung-tae trapped beneath some debris and They immediately help him out. Outside, the sinkhole is surrounded by the police and rescuers. They try to descend into the sinkhole, but the ground trembles, forcing him to retreat. As the situation deteriorates, the police make the decision to evacuate all residents, including Young Yi and Sung-hoon's mother. Elsewhere, the trapped group builds a fire and starts rationing the available food. The next morning, the rescuers deploy a drone into the sinkhole, but it loses control and crashes onto the roof of the sinking building. Upon finding it, the trapped group becomes excited, assuming the device will capture their presence. At the same time, a part of the building collapses, causing the roof to tilt. Everyone, except for Sung-hoon, manages to hold on and secure their position. Yoon-ju then takes a daring risk by grabbing a wire and throwing it towards Sung-hoon. With the assistance of Man-soo and Park, they then manage to pull Sung-hoon back onto the roof. However, the matter worsens when the wire snaps, resulting in Man-soo falling into the muddy pit. In a valiant attempt to save his father, Seung-tae jumps into the mud, but tragically, he also starts sinking. Now, with time running out, Park comes up with a clever plan. He rushes to his bedroom and shatters the windows. This allows the mud to flow into the room, hence saving the father and son's life. Amidst this, the drone surprisingly receives a signal and flies out of the sinkhole. This makes the rescuers aware about the presence of survivors inside. Upon investigating further, they discover that Soo Chan had a phone with him when he entered the building. They track its location and unfortunately learn that the boy is still trapped inside. The following day, the rescuers make efforts to convince the residents of the neighboring building to allow them to demolish the pillars as a precautionary measure. If the pillars aren't destroyed, there is a high risk of the building collapsing into the same sinkhole. Initially, the residents refuse to comply, but one elderly man steps up and delivers a touching speech, eventually convincing all of them.
Look, I don't know where I am right now or who I am, but just do it, damn it.
Inside the sinkhole, Man-soo claims that there's no one left in the building, as he had thoroughly checked all the rooms before the incident occurred. A few moments later, the rescuers utilize small parachutes to drop essential supplies into the sinkhole. The supplies include food, flashlights, oxygen, water, batteries, and a satellite phone. Park immediately grabs the phone to dial his wife's number, but before that, the phone starts ringing. As he answers, the voices of the rescuers can be heard on the other end. Young Yi interrupts the conversation and urges Park to search for Soo Chan. Unbeknownst to anyone, Soo Chan is inside one of the cars parked in the parking lot. The group proceeds to secure a rope, intending to send Park down into the elevator shaft. Outside, the rescuers deploy a crane into the sinkhole. Unfortunately, their operation is halted as the upper portion of the adjacent building collapses, blocking access to the sinkhole completely. Inside, Park somehow manages to reach the parking lot, but sadly, the group loses their grip on the rope. Moreover, the rain pours down, which causes the water level in the parking lot to gradually rise. Meanwhile, Soo Chan is crying for help when he sees Sung-hoon coming out of a large pipe. The boy gets out of the car to follow Sung-hoon, but a large debris falls and blocks the path. Park's leg also sustains an injury from falling debris, yet he pushes through the pain, determined to find Soo Chan. He calls out his son's name, and the boy responds. Park then follows the sound and finally rescues Soo Chan. As the father-son duo rejoice in happiness, they notice something in one of the ceiling's holes. It turns out to be Miss Oh, who sadly informs them that Sung-hoon has passed away. At the same time, Park notices the flooding water and asserts that they have to escape, but Miss Oh insists they leave without her. She is sure that her frail body won't allow her to climb up. Before parting ways though, Miss Oh cuts a lock of Sung-hoon's hair and gives it to Park, asking him to deliver it to the boy's mother when they're rescued. Following this, Park carries his son on his back and starts climbing up the pipe. Once they reach the building's cliff, he screams for his friends. The trapped group hears the calls and immediately springs into action. With combined effort, they somehow manage to pull the father-son duo up. After this, the group heads towards the roof and shockingly learns that the sinkhole has been blocked. To make matters worse, the water level is gradually engulfing the place. Realizing that they don't have much time left, the group begins searching for bottles and other objects that can serve as flotation devices in the rising water. Not long after, Man-soo finds a large water tank, which he names the Yellow Submarine. Everyone quickly enters except for Man-soo, who bravely chooses to remain outside, risking his life to secure the tank lid. As water engulfs the place, the tank begins rising towards the surface. However, at one point, it gets entangled in some wires. Yoon-ju notices this and suggests vigorously shaking the vessel. So, they all jump inside the tank and somehow manage to disentangle it. Unfortunately, a few seconds later, disaster strikes again. A steel beam impales the tank, allowing water to flow inside. Acting quickly, the group uses all of their strength to push the steel beam, but to no avail. Fortunately, the heroic Man-soo shows up with an oxygen supply reply and joins in the effort. He pulls the steel beam from outside and finally manages to dislodge it. Seung-hoon then inserts his hand into the hole, desperately trying to stem the flow of water. Meanwhile, Man-soo attempts to hold onto the tank, hoping to ascend with it, but he fails to catch it. Fortunately, his foot gets tangled with the wires from the tank, which drags him up with the rest of the team. As the group reaches the surface, they breathe a sigh of relief. However, their happiness is short-lived, as they notice another hole in the tank, posing a new threat. Reacting swiftly, Man-soo climbs onto the tank and opens the lid. In the meantime, the rescuers also spot them and quickly dispatch a crane to their aid. With this, the group is finally rescued after 48 hours of being in hell. In the aftermath of these tragic events, Young-yi is joyously reunited with her family, and Park presents Sung-hoon's hair to his grieving mother as a token of remembrance. Somehow I don't think that would make me feel any better. Several months later, Man-soo and his family visit Sung-hoon and Yoon-ju, who have found a new home together in a trailer. They gather near the river, enjoying delicious meals and drinks. Suddenly, a loud explosion occurs nearby, scaring the life out of them. However, it turns out to be a spectacular display of fireworks, which brings a smile to their faces once again, despite the obvious PTSD they're all experiencing. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.